Okay, namaste, everybody that's here and also that's on Zoom. Wonderful to see everybody here. So I want to start off with an intention. I'm going to pass this out. This is just a prayer for paradise, because that's always what we want to intend. And for those that are on Zoom, just follow along. Prayer for paradise on earth. Great God of light, we behold your plan unfolding, whereby all spiritual clouds are dispelled, impurity and error cleansed from the realms of spirit and matter. The age of light and joy is being born. Through your infinite compassion, misguided forces waken unto truth, and negative practices cease, while forces of light unhindered restore the world to peace. All of nature receives your loving influence and finds its rightful place. Peaceful clouds move across brilliant skies, and the fragrance of countless flowers floats upon the air. Abundant harvests glorify the earth, every corner filled with happy voices. Boundaries between countries vanish, and ancient conflicts disappear as if dreams. All people are united, encircled by your light, and guided by your wisdom. Through service to humanity, all are blessed with health, peace, and prosperity. Great God of light, strengthen us with courage and wisdom to follow your will in paradise on earth. And I want us to really think about that prayer. You know, one of the things it speaks of is that the age of light and joy is being born. Through your infinite compassion, misguided forces waken unto truth, and negative practices cease, while forces of light unhindered restore the world to peace. Could someone go into my office and get my pocketbook? I need my phone. Thank you. And the reason why I want to talk about that is, some of you know, I'm going to be talking a deep dive into the Cathars. Okay, and some of you may be familiar with the Cathars. I brought them up again, but I'm going to bring them up again because what I have noticed is that there is a cycling that's going over. One of the things that we could say as far as cycles, if we look at this world, I think we all can agree. Okay, don't see my phone. I might have it on my desk. Yeah. Oh, you know what, Jill? I'm sorry. I think I have it here. Never mind, Jill. Thank you, Jill. Jill. I have it here. This has been so interesting today. It's just, but it's okay. We're going to move forward. I guess this is a really important topic because we're all going to go like this. We're going to start to awaken with information that has been really downloaded to me. But before I go, actually, I want to go ahead and I want to just mention something. For those of you that don't know, some of you do know, and some of you do know. So there's a thing called gnosis, and the Gnostic Gospels speak of this gnosis. What is gnosis? Now, of course, I read about it in the past, but recently I did a very deep dive into the Gnostic Gospels. I did not know that gnosis is like a real thing. It is like how to have the gifts of the Holy Spirit. That's a real thing. Somebody that experiences that, they know that's real. Same thing with gnosis. Gnosis means knowledge. And knowledge, okay, is the key out of what we see here, what we want to call the false matrix. The Sanskrit called it Maya. Okay, but you'll notice that in this energetic field we've been in called planet Earth, and all the civilizations from Atlantis onward, and there's so many, it's billions of years old, so how many other civilizations have come, risen and fall, risen and fall. And if you look at this world, you begin to see a pattern. It is a pattern of history repeating itself like a loop over and over again. War is not new. That has been like from the beginning. Okay, and then you have to say, well, doesn't everybody want world peace? I used to think that as a kid. Well, everybody wants world peace, right? And then I come to find out, no, that's not necessarily the case. I'm like, what? That's like, are you kidding me? But then as you start to really begin to try to figure things out, and that's where we all are. You know why? Because we are seekers of truth. We are seekers, we're mystics, and we're trying to figure this world out. And this world, as in Sanskrit says, hey, the illusion is so strong and so powerful that the majority of people think this is it. Real simple. You come here and there's some suffering involved. You have to go through the suffering, and then, hopefully you go to heaven. And if you're not that lucky, you're going someplace else, right? Well, it's way more complex to that, because that is one very narrow, and I'm going to use the word manipulative view. Because if you are a student of history, and now, as I've always said, because of the we are in the sign of Aquarius, this age of Aquarius, all that's been hidden is coming up to the surface again. But guess what? It's done it a couple of times in the past. Now, I think in the cycles of cycles, we really have the opportunity to make that quantum leap to what people call the ascension. Now, ideally, we want the entire planet to ascend. That would be the ideal goal. But most definitely, we individually can do an ascension, our personal ascension. And I'm going to talk a bit later on, because Reverend Annie and I are going to do a class, and it is about the ascension. It's about those that say, you know what? I've come here many times. I try to do the best I can. I am now beginning to see through the manipulation and the corruption. Who here agrees that there's corruption going on? Okay, and has been. Nothing new. Constantine is still in charge. The Roman Empire is still here. King Xerxes and all of them. They're all in charge. Does anybody who has power that we're aware of in this timeline here right now, are they going to give up their power? Like, hey, let me give up my power. And no, in fact, there is an agenda, okay, to have same old story. What? World domination. World domination. A centralized power that will have a control of the world. Is that a good thing? No, it's not. So I'm going to tell you the secret of the Cathars. Now, this is what's interesting. The Cathars were really around in the 13th century, okay, the 13th century. And basically, the Cathars were in a region, it was a Christian movement, and it was their followers. A lot of them were in France, but also Italy. But they also came from the idea of the Cathars came way before that. It was the Manichaeans. Now, I studied the Manichaeans because I'm like, somebody said, hey, you're a Manichaean. And I said, a Manichaean? What's a Manichaean? A Manichaean comes the word Mani. And the word Mani was a prophet. And Manichaeism, which basically is a dualistic concept. Whereas they say, the real God, the real most high God, the benevolent one, the loving one, the forgiving one, that Jesus refers to, the Zoroastrianism and others are always talking about there's this benevolent higher being. That's not what's in charge of this world. What they're saying is that, and the Gnostics go into it in quite detail, and I'm not going to do that now, but basically what they're saying is that there was a demigod. Now, we're creators. We can co-create. Can we not co-create? What is not to say that other beings, maybe that are higher in terms of knowledge and access, but they can co-create too. And so the story goes, okay, that there was this, like what the Gnostics call the demiurge, this little god with a small g. And he is the one that created this world. He doesn't, some of them call him the ignorant God, because he doesn't realize that there's a God above him. And this is all spelled out in the Pistis Sophia. That is, we have done a study in the Pistis Sophia. That is a codex that was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Then adding to the Dead Sea Scrolls, they're finding this information that's what, thousands of years old. Like, nobody told us this. This is now in ancient books in the Torah and in the Bible, they refer to these books, but where are they? They're not there. So, like, for example, the book of Enoch. How do we get to know about the book of Enoch? Because it was there in Ethiopia that they kept it as a canon. And then you have to start looking at what? Politics. Has politics ever changed? No. Politics and everything. And the politics is sort of determining who's going to be in charge. Okay, and so you had the Council of Nicaea and many other councils, and this is after the death and the resurrection of Jesus the Christ. They had the original group over there. The original Christians have a completely different worldview than we have today. What we have today is the orthodoxy. What we have today is what the priest kings said. They said, you must come through us to get indulgences, to pray for any sins that you've done. And also, we're going to give you the guidelines of what you should and should not do. And let's not forget, back thousands of years ago, not everybody was literate. So you're depending on that person who's going to do the right thing. Now, not taken away, there are many people like us who care, who love, and they want to see war, they want to see peace. That's always been. But you have this group that somehow manages to get into power and stay in power, consolidate power. And they say, we make the rules. Now, it is contrary. If you just look at society today, and just not today, but in the past, they're saying we're Christians and we're doing what Jesus is doing. I don't think so. Because there's a lot of things you say, are you doing this out of this loving and caring for your neighbor, or is this power? Because those so-called 7 deadly sins, those are real. And they're in this world, and they're very tempting. That's like revenge, resentment, power, control, lust. Oh, it goes on and on and on. Okay, so those are the things that are like, hey, let's do this. Yeah, you're powerful. Yeah, you should be in control. Look at you. Da, da, da. Okay, then you have to, wait a minute. Everybody has to work together as a team. We're all here together. We care about one another. So, the one with the little devil on one side, the little angel on the other side, and which one you pay attention to is where your life is going to go more into. So the bottom line with the Cathars are saying, which, by the way, they came about 1,000 years later. Now, the Gnostics, they were like, 100 AD, 200, just 100 years ago, 200 years ago, up to 300 years ago of the resurrection of Jesus. So these are the early Christians saying, look, the Gnostics are saying, we got to be careful of the guy in the Old Testament, the one that's smiting everybody, and I'm a revengeful God, and all of that. They're like, I don't know. I don't think that's the one that Jesus is talking about. Jesus is talking about Abba, this loving God, this forgiving God. So we're thinking, hey, Elohim means what? Elohim. I remember when I was in elementary school, and I saw that Elohim means plural. And I was like, oh, plural? I thought there's just one God. But Elohim means many. And so when you start to go and move the veil over, you will see there's a lot going on in the invisible realms that we're not privy to. And that we can co-create, a whole bunch of other things can co-create. Finally, we come to the conclusion, finally, that we're not the only ones in the multiverse. We're not the only kid in town. There's a lot that's going on, right? So then that forces you. And I think that one of the iconic pictures is when we went to the moon and they took the picture of the Earth from the perspective of the moon. Now we can see the Earth from Mars. But that was a paradigm shift because you just saw this one planet and we're all on it as one humanity. And other civilizations will look at us and say, well, that's just the humans are there. They just see it as one organism. But here we are like little cells fighting each other within a body. Then you have to start. So that was a big paradigm shift. I think that affected a lot of people. They had to go ahead and change their thinking when they saw the Earth from the perspective of the moon. Just like how people had to change their paradigm when they were told that the sun revolves around the Earth, right? And I forget this guy, Giorgiano Gargano, I forget his name. He was a famous, he was a monk, and he was saying, no. It's the other way around. The Earth revolves around the sun. Well, they killed him. Okay. And then you start to notice, like, hey, I think if somebody is an independent thinker and trying to go against the orthodoxy of whoever is in charge, and that's a big question, is exactly who's in charge, can be on planet and off planet. Okay, who's in charge? Is that they have a hard time. And you might be eliminated. That's what happened to the Cathars. That's what happened to the Cathars. Because the Cathars, 1,000 years later, and only the Cathar, they had what was called the Bougainvilles, I believe it is, the Bougainvilles, right? And they came from the Bulgar kingdom, and that is in the area of the Balkan Peninsula. They popped up, and they said, "Hey, I don't think this other God that we're talking about, that we're worshiping, is the one. I think we got it wrong." So this is 1,000 years later, another cropping up, just like now. Here we are, thousands of years later, we're saying something's not right. I really think we're in a simulation. I think we're in a matrix. New name, same stuff. New name, same. It pops up. It won't go away. It won't go away because something is wrong. And there's something in us, particularly us light workers, who chose to be here in this time. And I'm going to tell you, we are the bridges. We are the in-betweens. Because Divine Mother, many of you know, I said this many, many times. She said, this is in 2010. I need somebody to keep the polarities in balance. Those were her words. Because she said, it'll come a time of extreme polarities. That causes war. Who can keep this? Because when you think about it, you begin to see the manipulation. And they had a movie. I don't know if you remember. I can't think the name of the movie, but I forget it. But anyways, the guy is wearing glasses. And when he puts the glasses on, he sees the signs. I forget the name of the movie, but it says like obey. It's this subliminal, was it? Them. Yes. Them. A lot of times, if you think about it, You see science fiction, it's, maybe that's going to be in the future. No, it's happening. You just don't know about it. You just don't know about it. And I've always learned this. If you don't understand something, if it doesn't make sense, that means you don't know something. There's something going on you're not aware of, because 2 and 2 is not equaling 4. So that means there's a component in there that you don't know. And that's where we want to go ahead and seek and find out what happened. So let's get back to the Cathars. So anyway, they had basically, look, this universe is a dualistic, and they believe that there is the good, the positive, the loving God, and they believe that there's the dark and the evil God with a little g. The loving God is the big G God, Most High God, the one Jesus speaks of, the Buddha, Zoroaster, and others. And there's this other little demigod. And this little demigod, they believe, is the one that created the material world. That's basically it. And as I read this, I have to agree. Because, the illusion is, oh, this is my body. My body. Jesus said, when you can overcome death, you will be free. So the program is, and for many people, the body is the temple. Here we are. We do have to take care of the body. But really, where the freedom is, where the expansiveness of the beauty of this multiverse is, you're not dragging these along. You're in a different kind of body. You're in a light body that doesn't have aches and pains, and you have to take care of it. It has to sleep. You have to give it medicine. I mean, it's high maintenance having these things, right? High maintenance. So, here's a paradigm shift. What they're saying, we are trapped in these material bodies made by this demigod. And they have different names for him, but in the original Gnostic Gospels, the original Christians, and also the Judaic, the Hebrews, they call this the demiurge. We come from what they call the pleroma. It is above the demiurge. So here's the thing. And there's different versions of it you could study, and I recommend everybody do a deep dive in the Gnostic Gospels, at least the Nag Hammadi. Do the Apocrypha of John, the Gospel of Thomas, Mary Magdalene, any one of those. Just start reading. Because you will be inspired. Your little brains will start to go, wow, that makes sense. That makes sense. And listen, this is what? Forbidding knowledge for thousands of millions of people. They couldn't read this because they burned all the books. And they killed anybody that talked about this. They killed them. So there were whole groups of masses of people that did not have this knowledge. So we could say this is the secret knowledge that the Cathars knew. So one of the most famous areas, and I'm going to give you the story, it's really wild, okay, is that they were decimated. I mean, decimated. Men, women, and children gone. And if you happen to live in a neighborhood next to one of these Cathars, which were the holy people, they were feeding the poor. They were like vegetarians. They were praying nonstop. I mean, they were very in the aesthetics because they were about the spirit and purifying because they wanted to get out of Dodge. Hello. Me too. And if I had a formula to do it, well, hey, let's do that. So these individuals, they had gnosis. They knew it in their bones. They knew there was no convincing them otherwise. But that is why when they were put into the fire, and the great one was Montségur. Okay, Montségur. And they went singing into the fire. Like, okay, fine. Because we're making the ascension. We are getting out of here. They knew it in their bones, and that's why they were not threatened, men, women, and children. And by the 14th century, not a Cathar existed. None of their books. However, all that is hidden will eventually rise up again. And so this is a historical thing. You could read about the Cathars. It's actually history, and go to France, they do the tour, they do the whole 9 yards, but their writings somehow were kept hidden and they resurfaced again. And that's how we know about their belief system. So again, this is just another one of a pop-up. I'm going to call it a pop-up because prior to the Cathars, there was the Manichaeans. Now, what people don't know about the Manichaeans, which is from the prophet Mani, okay, and again, this is like several centuries before the Cathars, okay, is that it was practically a world religion. Because what it did, it talked about the Most High God, what Christ referred to, Zoroaster refers to, Buddha refers to, this benevolent, loving being, where we are from that creation, but somehow we're fallen into this material world, but there's a way to get out and get back, which is what all of us, whether we know it or not, longing for home. There's a deep longing, like, I know for a lot of us, it's like, I'm not even from here. And there's this sense of longing. That longing is to be with the Creator, to be in that higher frequency of light that we are used to. So what they did is they said, you know what? And they were around the Byzantine, around the time of the Roman Empire of the Byzantine. Their thing was, we know that this church and their rules and the dogma and everything that they're saying, okay, is not the truth. That's what they were saying. And so when they said, no, you got to listen to us, no, you got to go through us, they said, no. We're going to be true to who we are, what we believe in, and know to be the truth. So one of the things that they said is they were the keepers of forbidden wisdom. Truth is not lost, it is buried, waiting for those with eyes to see. That's what they said. Truth is, the last one must have said it, just like the last Manichaean wrote. The last Manichaean wrote and said, they will try to destroy it, hide all that the Manichaeans was all about, which was nothing but love and allowing everybody to practice their own culture in their own way. So somebody wanted to say, I do the rosary. Somebody says, I do mala beads. Oh, good. Are you coming from the higher heart of compassion, unconditional love? Good. So it had a lot of magnanimity that if you're coming from a good place, you have a good heart. The Dalai Lama, or whether it's a priest, or whether it's whoever, one of us, we have the higher heart of compassion, unconditional love. We care. It doesn't matter if you do a rosary or mala beads. It doesn't matter if you do salutations or whatever it is that you do. You have that right as what? A sovereign being to do what it is that you feel to do. The connecting factor is that we come from the higher heart of compassion and unconditional love because it's natural to us. Now, the illusion of the world, don't think they're sitting down twiddling their thumbs, right? Because it's a competition. The competition is, I want to be king of this world and control everybody in this world. And I'm going to give the illusion that these people are free. And they do a good job, don't they? Now, there's a quote, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again because that was a light bulb moment for me. Harriet Tubman. Is everybody familiar with Harriet Tubman? Yeah. Okay. Harriet Tubman said, I could have freed more slaves, but they did not know they were slaves. Think about it. We're born into a society that has certain rules and regulations. You're given a name, You're given a social security number, and they want to know everything about your lineage, right? Where you from, who your parents are, who your grandparents, and they go into race and culture and all these different things and languages, all things to promote what? Separation. Because what if we all came together and said, we're just one. We're one expression of the divine, and we get together to do that. Oh, that's not going to sit well with the counterforce of what I call the anti-human agenda, because it's not benevolent. I can promise you that. But we have the family of light. We are never alone. And at the end of the day, this is why we're here. Because we are the ones that are here in this moment at this time, because on some other level, from the Ancient of Days, we here made a promise to come and make a difference, because each and every one of us is either the black sheep of the family, nobody understands what you're talking about, you're the crazy one. All of us could write our stories. We all have novels that we could write. You're strange, you're different. Thank God. I'm so proud. Oh my God, thank you. I am different. I am strange. Oh my God, thank you. Because I always tell like very young people, I said, you're not crazy. The world is crazy. It's the inversion. They're great at inversion. You can say, oh, look, this is beautiful. This is a beautiful golden orb. They're like, no, it's not. It's silver. No, it's golden. No, it's silver. You're crazy. And then you learn to what? Shut up. Because you find out, like, you look around like, who else is here? You're the only one. Until you walk your path of courage like the Cathars. They said, we're going to be our authentic selves. We don't care what, this was Pope Innocent. That's so funny. I love these names. Pope Innocent III. He's the one that started what is known as the Albigensian Crusade. The Albigensian Crusade. Now, let me tell you, this is behind the scenes stuff. You tell me if there's parallels going on here, because there are. What they said was this. First of all the people where the Cathars were, you didn't know a Cathar from a Catholic. They were all Christians, but the Cathars had their way, and they were respected because they were just so holy and positive and giving and helping. Nobody had a problem with the Cathars. You had the aesthetic ones, like the priesthood one, and they were the ones that were very austere in what they were doing. They were dedicated, but you also had the regular believers, okay? And they were walking their path. And then what ended up happening is because the orthodoxy, it's like, well, no, you can't veer off. Everything has to be the way we think. Okay. And the moment that they said, no, we know this to be true. So we're going to be authentic with it. Okay. What ends up happening now is the Pope gathers up the knights and all the people, what they had back in the 13th century, in the medieval times. And they said, we can't kill these people. They're good people. Their neighbors love them. And not only that, how can you tell a Catholic from a regular Catholic? You can't, right? So you know what was said? This is one of the nights. He says, well, just kill them all. So that meant you didn't even have to be a Catholic. You just had the misfortune of living next door to one. And you were wiped out. And when I tell you in 100 years, this is how important it was to the orthodoxy. In 100 years, they wiped out each and every Cathar, man, woman, and child, no longer exist. Now that was what, in the 13th century? We are what, in the 21st century? And here it's popping up again, because we're talking about the matrix and simulation and the same story. And now the Gnostic Gospels are like almost common. You could go out there and get them. Manichaeism and the writings of that are common. What the Cathars wrote are common. This is now interesting. And now people are coming up again like, I'm interested to know more. Why? Because we are seekers of truth. We know in our bones nothing is correct. So one of the things they said is, You know, how we're not impressed with the church and the cathedrals and the dogma and the indulgences. They saw that as being the dark forces. They're saying what the Gnostics are saying, we can go directly within because the kingdom of God is within us. And that's the mantra of all of them. The kingdom of God is within us. We do not have to go through you. And in the Gospel of Thomas, I will tell you what it says. The Gospel of Thomas says here, Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you and around you, not in buildings of wood and stone. Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Lift a stone, and you will find me. That's written. And by the way, the Gospel of Thomas, it doesn't go into when Jesus is born and it's like, it goes to, the story is where Jesus is speaking to Thomas and he's writing down what Jesus is saying. So the Gospel of Thomas is not a story. Jesus says dot, dot, and you can go through it, all the different things that he's saying. Then in the Apocrypha of John, okay, when you start seeing the manipulation, now what happened to Lilith? What happened to a whole bunch of with the matriarchy and the patriarchy? Who messed that up? In nature, you see the symbiotic relationships between the divine feminine and the divine masculine energies. But somehow in the human kingdom, that's all messed up and the matriarchy is suppressed. And because it's not balanced, we don't have a balanced world, do we? So where does that come from? Well, in the Gnostic Gospels, in the Apocrypha of John, it tells you where that comes from. It was from the demiurge. It was a specific implementation to cause what? Chaos. Because if they can keep chaos going, not only out in the worldly affairs, but what about the chaos within yourself? Sometimes your biggest fights are what? Within yourself. So they can keep you distracted. Okay, you don't have time to begin to really think, to reflect. And in today's society, oh my gosh, you're on the go, 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 go. It isn't where you even have time now just to have time off to just meditate, reflect, and think. And that is so important. But I have good news. This is the good news. The good news is that these light codes are coming in and they can't stop that. In the cycle of times, and even though this is popping up again, that we are to look at this and look at this world and say, is this the real world? And we're coming to a conclusion. No, it's not. It's nice. It's a beautiful world. I love the planet. We came here because we love the planet, but this is not it. We are here to raise her into a higher frequency. And we're here to raise ourselves to a higher frequency where we pass the whole chaotic, dualistic fighting of polarities. We're here to anchor in that one light that comes, like we would know the antikarmana that runs through us, that will come and stabilize the two polarities. Because our creation is a trinity. But we are like this because we don't have an anchor that's holding it. And that's why we're like this. Because if you don't have the divine feminine archetype, the divine masculine archetype, if you don't have the balance of the polarities, which I've seen that in a vision, there is no peace. There is no chaos. And there is agenda. Now, guess what? This is the key. Oh my gosh, these forces that are there, they're so powerful, and what can we do? So the biggest trick of all, the biggest lie of all was telling us we're just these small little creatures and we have no power. Oh no. Because Jesus the Christ said, as I can do, you can do. And he says, hey, the kingdom's not here. Okay, this ain't it. It's someplace else. And when you realize that you are the Adam Kadmon, the divine human, and your source and who you are is from the highest of Aeon. It's not here, but they know that. They cannot create like how we can create because they have cut their source off from the divine. So they're like, oh, we could use the little humans and use their lights. That's what we can do and get them to do the creation for us. It's all a manipulative plan. I know it's hard for some people to say, oh my God, this is changing my whole paradigm. I don't know. I don't know if I can handle this. It's okay. Just breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe. But do you want to be free? That's the question. Do you want to see this world improve? And as we become awakened, and that's the word, as we become awake, how does that happen? Well, first of all, you have to know that you're an interdimensional being. First of all, you have to know that you hold the divine spark. That is your light and your armor. And it is said, and this is in the Keys of Enoch, this is in Theosophy, huge bodies of work. And they said it is our light that is so powerful that can overcome anything. The key is you have to know that. And you have to know it, not believe it, but know it. So if you come and you are confronted, and I have been on different planes, like, I'm like, I don't think so. I know who I am. And this is my posse over here. Can't do anything. But if you don't know, then that's when they can seep in, do the manipulation, and so forth. So I would say this in our society here right now. We are at a tipping point. And you could turn down the air if you want to put a little bit of. Okay. It is a little warm, I think, but anyway. We're at a tipping point. In the cycles of time, I find it so interesting that this idea of a lower God, not the God that we're praying to, the Old Testament, the smiting God, that one, okay, that's not what we're aligned with. Because a God of love is not going to smite anybody. Or saying, I am a revengeful God. I am a jealous God. Who says that? Who says that? And so you have to look and say, something's not right. And nobody can tell you. This is where it requires you to do your own research. Because you have to come to your own conclusion, not what I say or others say, or even what the Cathars say. You start to do your own research. You read about the Cathars. You read about Manichism. Like, how many people know the Prophet Mani? Raise your hand. Nobody. And this was such a powerful movement that was almost worldwide. But what happened? Powers that be, they didn't like that. They said, uh-oh. They're all getting together. They're all uniting together because they're respecting each other's cultures. They're respecting each other's languages. But really, they're all connected through the heart. Uh-oh, we can't have that. So what? They kill Manny, they kill the whole movement, just like the Cathars. Just like the Cathars. So, but now we're in a different age. And in the age of ages, I believe and feel that we actually have the opportunity to flip the switch in this generation. There were those that did it and they did their personal ascension. And we most certainly can do our personal ascension. I want to mention right now, while I'm on the topic, that Reverend Annie and I are going to do the complete ascension manual. For those that are serious, like, I'm ready. I know I am. But as you become awakened, as you align, okay, with your awakeness and put the vibrations in the highest source, when you are awake, it's called knowledge. Because ignorance is not bliss at all. And it's through the control has happened. And of course, anti-human, they are so concerned and fearful of us waking up. But you know what? as Bob Marley says, you can't stop the tide. We're having light codes coming in. And if I'm waking up and you're waking up and you're waking up and you're waking up and you're waking up, okay, that's like that, the what they call it, the 99th monkey of the 55 people, what it, huh? The 100th monkey. And I will tell you that I look and I see a lot of very younger people coming in already awake. They're like, wait a minute, something ain't right here. I really appreciate. They said, no, I'm not going to work myself to death. I'm not going to work 24/7. I'm not doing it. So guess what? Those corporations have to change their culture because the millennials and the Gen, they're not having it. And now you have remote, things are changing. Now, because you could almost say like the viruses, there's always a silver lining, sort of like a blessing, and that people were so busy working, they forgot what it's like not to be that busy when the virus came around. They're like, oh my God, I'm sleeping. Later, I feel better. I'm in my slippers. And so that was a shift to say, I think this is how life should be. And they're like, no, everybody has to come back to the office. No, the big revolt, we're not doing that. So everything is shifting because I believe people are waking up. And this is the key. The key is being your authentic self and being in your truth. Now, I'm not going to say that, we're going to be like the Cathars and, go into a fire. But if push comes to shove, and that this is a temporary thing and the true thing is the ascension in your spirit to get to the paradise world, I'm in. Because this is temporary. But what we have is eternal. And so we want to get out of the trap. And I don't know. I often think, on some grand scale that we say we were going to do this and, stay in this earth a couple of times until we figure it out. Maybe so, because you do learn things here too. Okay. And it is a beautiful place. There's a lot of things on here too. But I think at some point we're like, okay, I think I got it. It's time to go. But if you go, then help your neighbor to go, and help your sister to go, and help your brother to go. When you start waking up, it's going to be like a complete movement of other people waking up and going to be able to. We know, and this is what we can do. What we can do is when we know who we truly are and the power we hold, we can start using it. If you see something on TV, something that is chaotic, if you move in a space where you can sense and feel the hate, okay, this is what light workers do. They don't succumb to that. They hold their light and their peace so strong that you shift the room. You shift it. What if there's 2 or 3 of us together, just holding our light, refusing to fall into the what? Traps. Oh, there's so much traps. They just want us fighting all the time because that energy is useful to them. It's like fuel. All of us saw the Matrix, right? Most of us did. And it came down to a battery. Well, really, that's true because that's a source of fuel. And then when you wake up and say, I'm not going to be a battery anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. And I think that where we are is that we can really have a planetary ascension. But again, we are in free choice. There's a choice. And there might be some that says, hey, I'm not going for it. I'm stuck. I don't know. And they are stuck deep into the matrix. Ideally, the rest of us will be able to impact that. But if it doesn't, there's another energetic resonant field. But I do believe the ascension is going to happen, or we have a chance to do the ascension for the entire planet. Or for most of the planet, it'll go into its frequency band. There are people living in the 5th dimension right now. Most of us here, we're already in 5D. We're in the world, but we're not of it. And we're able to see through the illusion. So if you're able to see through the illusion, that means then you have a responsibility to be your authentic self in whatever situation you find yourself in, that you speak your truth. You don't go along with the program because everybody else is. And you can choose not to engage in the decisiveness, because as Mother Mary said, she needs somebody to keep the polarities in balance. That's us. We can't engage. We have to hold the light. So with that, I want to just mention that again, we're going to have this complete Ascension manual. It's going to be online and in person too, and that's going to start November 2nd. And you can find that information. We're going to be doing the book, The Complete Ascension Manual by Joshua David Stone. And Joshua David Stone was a mentor for me early on my spiritual journey. And he died in his 40s, but he ascended. Yeah. And then I want to mention this too. This is what Thoth says. There's a theme in all of this. Thousands of years separated, but the same theme. This is not the real deal. You come from a very high aeon. You made in the image and the similitude. You're kind of trapped here at the moment because of your ignorance. But the minute you wake up, you can get out and bring everybody. It's the Exodus. This is the 21st century Moses Exodus. So whoever is interested, I figure I'll continue to help, like the Ascended Masters. They're still here, but they're not in here. I'll work from that level. I don't have to come back into a body. And you know what Thoth says? Thoth says there is what he calls the good death. What's the good death? You realize you're awake, you understand everything. So you'll have, like in the East, a high-level Lama that will say, okay, guys, I've done my teaching here, but let's see, I'm going to leave next week. Okay, so I have a little party. Let's say goodbye. And they come and they say, thank you, so much, Guru. You've been so great. He says, okay, bye. And he leaves. He leaves the body. And the cellas, and they all, prepare the body and do whatever they do with the body. But he knew he was leaving. Yogananda knew he was leaving. We can have that when you have that level of understanding, like, okay. And you say, don't weep for me. One thing I want to say about Ignatius. So I read this, it was Saint Ignatius, and he was going to Rome from wherever he was. He's writing to the people, the Christians that are in Rome. He says he's on his way, and the Christians are saying, oh, no, if you come here, they're looking for you, and they're going to throw you in, the lion's den. They're going to put you in there. And he says, don't worry. He says, actually, I'm looking forward to it. He sounded like the Cathars. He says, no, actually, it's okay. He said, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm good. I'm good. So when you start to make the connections, it's such joy in your heart because this other stuff is not impacting you. You go out into the world fearlessly. And that's true freedom. That's true freedom. So with that, I can answer any questions at this point. If anybody online would ask a question, I'll be happy to answer any questions, or anybody that's here, if you have any questions, or everybody's just quiet. Yes, Jill.
The papal authorities sent in a whole army to kill the Cathars.
The Cathars, yes.
And numerous other groups.
Right. I want to ask you a question. How is there a holy war? Isn't that an oxymoron?
Totally.
Isn't that an oxymoron, a holy war?
Yeah.
Right.
What war? You speak to any soldier, they're going to say, no, it's not. Oh, I forgot to tell you this one part. So how did they get the knights to go ahead and kill the Cathars when they're saying they're good people or neighbors? We don't want to do this. They said, what did they get? They used one of those deadly sins, greed. They said, tell you what, this is the Pope Innocent the Third. He says, no worries. We're going to take all their land and we'll divvy it up between you all. They were like, okay. Money.
Happening now.
Land. It sure is. That's why I wanted to do the capsules, because say, let you come to your own conclusions. Do you see what's happening? And by the way, it's not just the Cathars, the Atlanteans, they looked at these other civilizations. They started technology, they were corrupted. There's all these signs. It needs to be this way. It is a separation, then there's hatred. Hatred is the key that separates these polarities. The hatred, because it is the antithesis of love, which is what we're all about, what the Most High God is all about. It's the love. But this demi manipulation, you know what it is? It's just like you're playing a video game and you have your little avatars, but who is manipulating behind it? So when you see all of this stuff going on, you got to say, it's not the politicians and all that. Nah, they're just pawns. Who's been manipulating everything from the beginning? That's the question. Who's doing this?
Yeah.
Ooh, and that is the deep dive. And so who's doing it requires you to understand that you can't just look at this perspective of this world. You can't. We already know there's many dimensions, right? There's many worlds. So this is coming from another place, which the Gnostics called the demiurge. So that requires like, and as Pistis Sophia speaks of it, this is like the archetype. This is before even the creation of this world and us. Whatever that is, and I don't claim I know it all, but something happened, what they call the fall. It's known as the fall of the earth, the fall of man. And I understand it's the fall of the whole universe. I was shocked to hear that. Like, what? I thought it was just this planet. I said, the whole universe is falling? I'm like, oh my God. It took me a while to get over that. That was a paradigm shift for me. I was just, oh, this stupid planet, it's blah, blah, blah. No, it's the whole universe. So, which tells you, you got to be discerning about everything. Everything. And as I always say, question everything and watch what you're saying. Because you may be saying things, words, or spells. And you may be aligning with something that is negative, not positive, anti-human, and don't even know it. And by the way, who are we celebrating? What are we celebrating? We're one humanity. One crushes the other, and then you have these clustered thought forms from ancient of times, still circling the planet, of ancient wars that can't get over it. Who's promoting that? And then you start to look and see these cycles. And isn't somebody going to say enough? I am. I'm like, I'm done. So what can I do different? Well, I guess I can raise my vibration, stick in the fifth dimension, hold as much light as I can, help to awaken other people. We all stand in that light. And as we begin to ascend, we help everybody else. You have the people that will be the protesters, the one that's their job. Everybody has their job. Light workers, we are all mystics, use our powers. Use our power of intention. So if you see something on TV that is not good or, promoting something, you use your intention, your mind, the alchemist that you are, that change it. So when I see a war-torn place on TV, I just imprint, instead of that coming to me like this, I imprint seeing green grass, happy children playing. That's the vision I'm putting in. I'm not going to be like this, but most people and the masses are. You know that. But the ones that are awake, we got to stay awake, do what we need to do to awaken others. Because the shift, this is a timing factor. So it is important that we do that. All righty. So I've kind of gone on a tangent over here, but okay, I have a question, right?
Do you know where they found the secret documents or books of the Cathars?
The question is, if they know where they found, the books. What happened in Montsegur, the story or the legend goes that as they were coming in, there was one or two of them that were able to escape whatever they had. And, like they went out the back door and they escaped and they put it somewhere. I'm not sure where they have it, but a lot of this stuff, like Montsegur, there's stuff that's been hidden in chapels and churches and in grounds, so they're just finding things that were hidden. So I know they have access to it. That's why they know, but it was a historical event. So somebody, I don't know who it is, wrote about the Cathars. They were singing, going into the flames. It was the time of the Inquisition. Remember the Inquisition? Remember the witches? Now, who's doing that? Because you have herbs and herbs that can heal people, you're a witch, and so you're going to die by fire? What kind of program is that? Is that what Jesus or Zoroaster or any of Illuminate avatars, is that what they preach? No. And we've been so indoctrinated. Our parents have been indoctrinated. Our grandparents, great-grandparents. I just did a genealogy, and I have found ancestors that go back to the early 1700s. And I'm looking at what they were doing over there. And they had, one of them was a slave owner. I'm like, that's not true. So I'm the oppressed and the oppressed. I have both. I'm like, Now, I'm not saying, I believe that humans are good at heart. I really do. We come in, you look at a little child coming in, and you just see they smile automatically. They brighten up, right? And they feel that they could do anything. As a little kid, I can do anything. And then the world comes, the program comes. Teachers, parents, church. There are people who've been traumatized by that because it's an affront to their spirit. It's an affront to their soul because there's something in us that says no, but we are programmed to follow the authority. The authority. And when we don't, there's a consequence that's painful. But I think Jesus the Christ, and let's say I'm like, hey, I'm ready for the pain. No. But if I have to, well, there's pain already here. Everybody's gone through pain here. And Jesus the Christ came and he's like, look at him. He's trying to help everybody. He's trying to raise everybody's frequency. He's coming from love. And look what they did to him. And it wasn't even the Romans. It was his own people. What? Oh, who are you? You're going to take my power away? Who do you think you are? This is how we've been doing it. What else is different? It's the same repeat until we wake up. And that's our job. Our job is to wake up. Jesus Christ said, as I can do, you can do. He woke up a couple, like St. Ignatius, like, I'm good. That's okay. I'll say hi to the lion. It's all good. So that's where we are. I know it's like, you think about it, but think of all the grace. Isn't it wonderful to have this knowledge that you could go into the world and be centered in your light? You hold this radiance. Okay, and you go and with no matter the chaos, we move in ease and grace when you hold this energy. And then if you know how powerful you are, the universe conspires to support you. And like this, everything is temporary. So there's no attachment. And if there's no attachment, you're free. You have to start to think about it. It takes a moment, but it's start to contemplate it. Okay. All righty, everybody. If there's no questions over here, I want to say thank you so much, beautiful family of light. I know it was an interesting discussion, and to plant some seeds, do your own research, go to the Gnostic Gospels, start reading them. Now you can get them on YouTube. You don't have to read it now. You can actually hear it. So go ahead and check it out. And if you want to, remember, interested And it is a 14-week course, so it is for somebody who's committed to do it. We're going to have the Ascension Handbook, okay? All right, namaste. Remember to please donate on our Cosmic Center website, ccosl.com, and you'll see the donation page there. Thank you so much. We love you, and we will see you next time. Dr. Moody is going to be here on Friday. Bye.